I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 27th video conference of our Code Enforcement and Nuisance Board. I'm Randy Deere, and Tabitha, would you roll call, please?
Deere,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Deerbone,
Yes.
Eggleton,
Yes.
Thomas.
Okay. Maybe Jack will come in here pretty soon. If not, we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and move forward.
We're also looking for two other inspectors that are going to be coming in, so we'll have to look for them as well.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. I think we can go ahead with case one. This is citation 12197, the 200 block of Red Elm. Respondent Derek Carver, officer, one of our Bowling Green Police Department officers. So let me swear everyone in, if I could, please. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. All right. Got a little ahead of myself there. So let's go back to citation BG 1297. This is our respondent is Derek Carver, and our officer is one of our Bowling Green police officers. Who I see is that Mr. Gleitz?
Captain Gleitz, yes.
Captain
I'm
Gleitz?
here on behalf of Evan Charlo, who's no longer employed by the department.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Based on the information, Mr. Carver's vehicle was cited for being parked in the opposite direction, and other charges not listed as for parked for storage that occurred at approximately, I'm having a hard time reading this, on the 24th, located on Red Elm. I'd spoken briefly with Officer Charlo in regards to this. He said he had personally received some complaints about it when he located the vehicle. It appears from our CAD notification that we received a complaint that may have been generated out of NCS on the 23rd. And at the time, it was followed up by Officer Charlo on the 24th when he did issue the citation.
Okay. Are there any pictures or anything that needs to go with this citation?
Unfortunately, no, I don't have any photographs. And at the time of the issuance of the citation, I'm assuming because he wasn't in contact with anyone, he did not activate his body-worn camera. So I actually don't have video of the incident or the citation being issued to the vehicle.
Okay. Is Mr. Carver here? Mr. Carver? Well, if Mr. Carver isn't here, then the citation stands. Do we need to make a motion on that?
I don't think it's necessary, just.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Case 2.
Did the office go back and send him a notice that he didn't show up? It's going to be pursued.
Delaney, I did follow up with him just before the meeting. I sent, and he did want to be notified of everything. He did want to go on and have his hearing. So I sent him his notice via email and certified mail and first class. So I'm not really sure the reason he wasn't able to attend, but he was sent his notice several different ways.
Okay. All right, so that's kind of, we're closing the loop, what I'm saying. Right now, he's not here, doesn't know anything, maybe sick or something, or whatever. We close the loop.
Right. He was
Okay.
aware of everything though. And he did want to have his appeal, or his hearing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, case 2. That's citation 2020-8525. The address is 1202 Beauty Avenue. The owner is Luna Cruz, AL, and Guadalupe Antuano. The officer is Nick Lahan. Are any of the respondents for this citation here?
Not that I can see on the screen here, sir.
So they're not, they've been notified also. Tabitha, I know they have.
Yes, they
Okay.
have.
All right. Then basically, the citation and fine stands
Correct.
as presented.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we go to case 3. This is citation 2020 8489.3. Address is 2608 Mohawk Drive. The officer is Benjamin Furbush, and the officer is Brad Charwarowski. Is Mr. Furbush available?
Hello?
Again,
I believe
people have been notified. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
If,
I hear someone.
excuse me?
Thought someone was talking on a audio, but maybe not.
Tabitha, I believe that the folks are on the phone from this last case on Beauty Avenue. I could be wrong, but I believe that they were called in by phone.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Oh, okay.
Okay, are they available by phone or video?
Phone.
I don't see anything.
We hear. Can you hear?
Are you here about case 1202 Beauty? Señores, aquí para el caso de la Avenida Beauty?
Yes.
Okay. Randy, yes, that's right. He's here for the 1202 Beauty.
Oh, he is present through what, telephone?
I believe so.
Okay, and our interpreter's there also. So let's, are we going back to case 2? So Tabitha or James, we're backing up to case 2. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, let's go back and revisit it. Citation 2020-8525. That's 1202 Beauty Avenue. The owner is Luna Cruz, AL, and Guadalupe Antuano. Our officer is Nick Lahan. And so I'd like to swear in who's going to be speaking, Luna Cruz or Mr. Antuano.
Que de las personas que están presentes, que si quieren hacer juramento, por favor, que están diciendo toda la verdad. ¿Quién de los dos, el señor Luna Cruz o Pablo Antonio? ¿Quién está presente?
Luna Cruz y Guadalupe.
Luna Cruz? Yes, so Mr. Luna Cruz is present.
Mr. Cruz will be speaking.
El señor Cruz es el que va a estar hablando.
¿Lo puedo traducir yo o usted lo puede traducir? I mean, I can translate or you can translate, don't matter.
¿Lo quiere decir en español o en inglés?
Español.
Okay, so he does want to say it in Spanish so that I can interpret it in English. Sí, por favor, adelante.
Bueno, ¿sí me oye, oiga? Bueno.
So I need to swear him in, and then Mr. Lawhon will go first.
Sí, primero que le tiene que hacer el juramento, usted va a decir toda la verdad primero antes de continuar.
Sí.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Usted jura decir toda la verdad y absolutamente toda la verdad, así lo escuche Dios.
Sí, señor. Sí, señor. Bueno, sí, señor, al juez, ¿verdad?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Lawhon.
you'll need to swear the interpreter also.
Can you repeat?
Mr. Chairman, you'll need to swear the interpreter also.
Okay, all right. Ms. Interpreter, what's your name?
Leda Becker.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Lawhon.
Yes, sir. I do have some slides prepared. I sent over to Tabitha. The site that we're looking at today at 1202 Beauty and 405 Beach has a unpermitted fill site on it. There's just an aerial view of the two lots, fill place from 2019. In early 2019, we were made aware of a fill site that had been erected on this lot and had covered over some drainage infrastructure, specifically a dry well. We sent a warning letter informing the property owner of the need to acquire a permit for fill sites, to have erosion control on any exposed soil, and to clear the dry well. And as a result of that, the dry well was cleared and fill operations ceased. We did not revisit it again until this year when Mo Hillard with code enforcement notified us that fill had resumed. And I went out on August 17th and found that there was a significant amount of fill that had been added to the site. The upper portion of it had been on the Beach Street lot, had been gravelled over and was being used to park tractor trailers. And the dry well had been covered over again. And there was no erosion prevention or sediment control in place at that time. Next slide has a couple of pictures of the site. At the time of citation, shows the tractor trailer, the fill. Normally that area in the foreground, both pictures, is a basin. It drops off about 3 feet from the roadway. In the pre-existing condition, currently it's a foot or so above the roadway. At that time, I issued my citation on August 20th, and Mr. Luda came and spoke with us at the office on August 26th and filed his appeal that day. As of right now, he has told us he would be pursuing a permit on that day as well. As of right now, we don't have a permit application in for that address. We do not have EPSC devices out there, but there has been some digging that went on. I've got a couple of pictures of that on the next couple slides. Looks like the owner was trying to find the, that's also time citation. One more slide, please.
Okay.
And then it looks like there's been digging to find the dry well, which is one of the more important pieces of it. But as of right now, no permit and no erosion prevention or sediment control present.
Okay, any other pictures or comments?
Those are all the ones I have at this time.
Do I see changes towards a compliance with these pictures?
The last couple do show that there has been digging out, looking to find the dry well. Yes, sir. That's the only steps towards compliance. The tractor trailer had not been parked there when I came back, but that was incidental to my citation.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lawhon?
No, sir. That's all I have at this time.
Okay. Let's go to our interpreter and ask Mr. Luna if he would like to respond to this citation.
Señor
Sí.
Luna, le están pidiendo que si quiere responder a la citación.
Sí, sí.
Señor
¿Se me oye?
Luna,
¿Sí me oye? Sí.
¿quiere responder?
Sí, sí.
Yes. Really difficult to hear him. Señor Luna, esta es su oportunidad para responder,
Sí, dígame.
pero no se le escucha muy bien.
Será que hay muchos árboles. Déjame bajo para abajo. Sí, dígame a ver si me oye ahí.
Tiene que hablar muy claramente, por favor.
Sí, sí la oigo.
Ok, esta es su oportunidad para responder a la citación que le han hecho en la propiedad.
Sí, dígame.
¿Algo que quiera decir?
Oh, mire, o sea que supuestamente allí que me dijo el del municipio que ahí había una alcantarilla donde se va el agua. ¿Sí me oye?
Sí.
Entonces, me dijo el del municipio que iba a poner una banderita donde está la del agua y que ahí escarbara yo, ¿verdad? Que escarbara yo para que se vaya el agua, el agua así como para el drenaje. Pero la banderita, oiga, ya fui yo al municipio, pero no estaba el señor. Y estoy esperando que ponga la banderita para escarbar y hallar la toma de agua para que se vaya el agua.
Dice que no estaba la banderita.
No ha ido a ponerla, el del municipio no ha ido a ponerla. Entonces, estoy esperando que ponga la banderita para escarbar y hallar la alcantarilla para que se vaya el agua cuando llueve.
So my understanding is that the city was going to place a flag where I could begin excavating and digging so that the water would flow into the drainage. I'm still waiting for the city to place that flag as a marker for me to be able to dig.
Well, it would seem to me that the city wouldn't address that unless they had a permit application to be able to do so. And it says here that no permit application has yet been received for the fill site.
Que me parece que están respondiendo que la única manera que la ciudad puede poner una banderita es si hay un permiso activo que se haya emitido aquí a la ciudad y todavía no han entregado un permiso para poder continuar el progreso con esa aplicación.
No, pero me dijo el señor que o sea, que no necesitaba el permiso, que únicamente que él iba a poner la banderita donde está la alcantarilla y que escarbara yo para allá la alcantarilla Entonces ya que hallando la alcantarilla, que yo vaya y avise que ya está la alcantarilla despejada para cuando llueva, se vaya el agua, pero yo estaba esperando la banderita esa que iba a poner el señor y no ha ido.
So I was told that I didn't need to have a permit to be able to clear out the drainage. I think the drainage was covered, and I was told that they were going to place a small flag in order for me to know where to clear the drainage. And then once I did that, and I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Mr. Lahan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, sir. I did mean to go out there and place a small flag, a little survey flag. That got lost amid the shuffle, but that was not in relation to any of the permit-related matters. We told Mr. Luna that the permit was required for the fill itself, and that is a separate requirement from clearing out the drainage. The permit would necessarily cover drainage on the site, yes, but the permit application itself is in this case a separate matter from clearing that particular drainage.
Okay.
I did describe the location of the well. I had meant to get out there and put a small flag as an aid to Mr. Luna, not as a sole location thereof. The location was described several times as being a few feet off the corner of the street.
Can our interpreter share that with Mr. Luna?
Sí, que el señor que trabaja en el Departamento de Obras Públicas dijo que sí iba a poner una banderita, pero que eso no tiene ninguna relación con el permiso que debería haber emitido y la citación de la excavación, que no están relacionados en lo que lo están citando actualmente. El señor se le olvidó poner esa banderita, que era unos pies de distancia de la calle a la alcantarilla. Eso sí se lo había dicho, pero lo que no está relacionado con lo que lo están citando hoy en día.
¿De qué es, oiga?
¿Perdón?
¿De qué es porque yo pensé que era de eso, de la alcantarilla.
I thought this was related to the drainage issue.
Okay, is there any other discussion, Mr. Lawhorn or Mr. Luna?
The only thing I'd like to add is that the site is currently bare. There are no erosion control measures, and as we can see, it has eroded out in multiple places. If the well is existent there, it is most likely clogged with debris and sediment, presenting a drainage problem for the local area.
Okay.
What's that property zoned for right there where the digging is?
I don't know off the top of my head. I believe it's residential from when I looked at the start of the case, but I haven't looked into that in quite some time.
I noticed that the trailers were parked there. Is it business or something, or was it business?
I do not know, sir. That was not, the trailers themselves were not related to my citation. Mine was just related to the need for the permit for the fill and to the drainage concerns.
Any other questions from our board?
Randy,
Yes.
this is Jack. What needs to be done? It seems like a flag or no flag, and we don't know what the property's zoned for or what it's used for. What needs to be done to bring it up to code?
Mr. Lawhorn?
A permit application needs to be submitted that includes a plot plan prepared by a professional engineer that will show the final configuration of the fill, and that will show the drainage as it will be in its final configuration, basically how is stormwater going to flow across that site. That's one portion thereof. The other is that dry well will need to be cleared, and all drainage infrastructure will need to be restored to a functioning capacity. And the third is that erosion prevention sediment control measures, silt fences or things to control erosion such as straw mats, that sort of thing. Those are just examples, but some measures need to be put in place by a certified contractor.
Is all that expensive?
It can be, yes, sir.
What's the time frame that you think it would take to complete all of that, get everything done?
Most of the engineers around town are pretty versed in preparing plot plans for this sort of work. If they could get to it, Chad, you've prepared such plans. How long do you think that takes for a residential or a small site like this? Or just preparing a plan?
Few days.
A few days for that portion thereof. The grade work itself to get it done just depends on the material that's there present on site. And we've seen that is mostly soil, but with some large rock. Erosion prevention sediment control measures can be installed in a day's time. And I just received a message, it's zoned light industrial.
But if I can add in, the plot plan would also try to describe with the change, with the fill that's been added, it would also address how is the stormwater drainage affected downstream. Before the site was kind of a low area, now it's been filled in. So that may have changed the way stormwater has flowed across the site than it did before. And that's why you get a permit, so that can be reviewed and approved before you do this work ahead of time to make sure that there's no downstream negative impacts downstream. So that's really where the requirement for the grading permit would come from.
Okay.
Question, would the owner be willing to do that?
Señor Luna, ¿está ahí?
Sí, aquí estoy.
Sí, la Junta está discutiendo el caso y hablaron con los de la municipalidad. Dicen que primero que todo necesitan continuar con un permiso para poder hacer la excavación de esa propiedad. No solamente eso, que usted necesita contratar a un ingeniero profesional para que le haga los dibujos de la área, exactamente cómo va a ser el plano de construcción ahí y de excavación para que lo llene de la manera adecuada. Ahorita hay un problema grave con el drenaje del agua y está afectando a otros en la comunidad. Necesita tener el permiso en línea, contratar a un ingeniero profesional que pueda hacer los dibujos de exactamente cómo se va a hacer lo del drenaje, y también para prevenir la erosión del sedimento y controlar de que la tierra no se vaya a bajar como lo está haciendo en este momento. La Junta quiere saber que si usted quiere proceder con esas recomendaciones.
No, sí, o sea, yo quiero arreglar eso, ¿ah? Pero, o sea que como no tengo dinero, o sea que no sé cuánto cobran porque tengo trasplante de hígado, entonces no me dan $400 por mes el seguro. Pero sí quiero arreglar eso, ¿ah?
Yes, I'm committed to fixing the issue in the property. The issue right now has been that I don't have any money to do so. I just recently had a liver transplant and I only receive an income of $400 a month.
Mr. Lawhon, with the fact that we need to get, Mr. Luna needs to get a permit, how long does that take?
The review process requires that the permit be reviewed within 5 days. As long as there are no issues, then it can be approved within 5 days.
All right. What are the no EPSC measures are in place?
EPSC is erosion prevention and sediment control. So those are things like silt fences, straw wattles to control sediment in runoff, or mats to control erosion, that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question that I hope is appropriate. Are there groups? Are there any peoples out there? Are there dollars available for assistance for issues like this, for scenarios like this?
Not that I'm aware of, sir, no.
I mean, there's dollars out there for just about everything. And that's the reason I ask if there was, if they had anything. You know, it seems to me that Mr. Lerner is clearly between a rock and a hard place here. Based on what I hear, if he has absolutely no money, you know, we can fine him for this, but if there's no money available, what is the next step? I mean, this has to be addressed. We could be dealing with this 3 months from now, even if we find this person. Can anybody answer that?
An immediate step that may not be extremely expensive would be to get seed and straw down, at least have grass growing, and straw will serve as a minor erosion cover. It's something that generally sites that are paused need to have seed and straw down as possible.
How much property does Mr. Luna own at this site?
I believe it's 2 lots. One is 0.27 acres. The other is 0.12. If my notes are correct.
Okay.
Question, are they income producing properties?
Señor Luna, que quiere saber si las propiedades que usted tiene generan algún tipo de ingreso. ¿Usted gana algún tipo de dinero por las propiedades?
No, nada.
No, I don't.
Can we ask Mr. Luna if there's no income coming from the property? This is Matt Powell, by the way. I'm Nick's supervisor. Where is the fill coming from? Is he being paid to take the fill from somewhere else? Is he purchasing the fill from someone? He's raised the grade on the lot very significantly, which is going to have impacts on downstream drainage. So is there not an expense? There's no nearby construction site that didn't come from next door. So how is the fill getting to that site?
Señor Luna, el señor Matt quiere saber de dónde usted está sacando la tierra para traerla a las propiedades y llenar el terreno, porque es un área significativa de terreno que usted ha llenado. No sé, usted lo está comprando, se lo están dando, cómo lo está llegando ahí, porque ha aumentado bastante el terreno de lo que usted ha llenado con la tierra. Si no es una inversión que está ganando dinero, ¿de dónde está sacando para traer la tierra?
Solo andan poniendo ahí los del gas. Entonces, como ahí era un hoyo, ¿verdad? Empezaron a tirar la tierra, a tirarla, y ellos mismos iban y la acomodaban ellos mismos, porque supuestamente les quedaba muy lejos para ir a tirarla de ahí donde están haciendo el gas y todo eso.
¿La compañía del gas?
Sí, están metiendo como el cable, algo así. Entonces ahí la estuvieron tirando, ellos mismos se emparejaban.
¿Entonces usted no la puso ahí?
No, ellos la tiraban hasta que Yo porque me tiraron unos dumpers hace poquito y busqué a los de la Caterpillar, de decirles, no, saben que ya no quiero que estén echando nada, le dije, pero no, fueron de vuelta y volvieron a echar. Entonces lo que estoy yo tratando de hacer es poner un listón alrededor para que ya no se meta nadie. Pero la alcantarilla sí la
I wasn't the one that filled the lot. It's the gas company. There was already a hole in the property, and the gas company has come in and keeps throwing the dirt in there. And so I haven't moved any of the dirt into the property. They just keep coming back and filling it with dirt nearby. I've even told them to stop doing that. Because of the drainage issue, I want to be able to put something to prevent the dirt from flowing, some sort of like fencing. But I have told them to not do that anymore.
This is Atmos.
¿Es la compañía de Atmos? Señor Luna.
Sí, dígame, sí lo oigo.
¿Cuál es la compañía de gas? La compañía Atmos están preguntando.
No, o sea, el nombre no lo sé. Es una compañía que está por donde está el puente del nivel. Por ahí más o menos, creo, de ahí son los dumpers o algo así.
I'm not really sure what the name is of the company. I just know that it's near the bridge and that I think it's a gas company.
One more follow-up then. Is the gas company also doing the grade work to level the fill material and compact it? Because that has also been done. Or is he doing that for himself or hiring it done?
Y ellos también, ¿quién hizo el trabajo de compactar la tierra y de nivelarla? Porque también ese trabajo lo hicieron en la propiedad.
Ellos, o sea, iban y le tiraban. Entonces, para que cupiera más tierra, ellos mismos ahí acomodaban. Pero ya no los he visto a ellos, dónde estén o no sé. O sea, no sé qué compañía será ni nada, pero ellos mismos hicieron todo eso.
Yes, they came in, they themselves did all of the grading and compacting of the dirt. They did it all themselves, and I haven't seen them for a while, but they're the ones who put the dirt in there and graded and leveled it.
This is Jack again. It would seem to me it would be to our best interest to contact someone from the gas company and see if indeed they are responsible for the fill and for the grading. If so, then maybe they are the ones that need to put the straw and the other measures in there.
I can concur with that, Jack, if they're the ones that are doing that. And if that's the case, then if it just needs the straw, if it just needs seeding, Mr. Lawhon, will that take care of this issue?
The straw and seed are temporary measures, typically for sites that have paused or that are at their final configuration. As Chad mentioned, this does represent a drainage issue. We have a piece of drainage infrastructure that has been rendered inoperable. It's covered over and clogged. And this was a site that water drained one way through before now that has a completely different configuration. It's going to drain a different way. So we definitely, I would think we still need permit, and the seed and straw are temporary measures that would represent force compliance to me.
This is Jack again. And we have any, I'm asking the staff, any knowledge of the gas company putting fill onto private property and leveling it and grading it? It seems that seems to me to be questionable.
No, sir, not that I'm aware of, or I can't think anybody else in the room is.
There's a biking gas or something like that in the area, but they're nowhere near a bridge. I don't think we know of any gas company in the area, and definitely don't know of any that are placing fill on private lots without permission.
Well, Atmos has a place down by the old toll road. They had that new building put in 10 years or so ago, their office building.
Oh, maybe think so. Yeah, overpass bridge. Yeah. So we can contact that, but we're more than happy to work with him to figure out. I mean, essentially, this sounds to me, and I'm no attorney, like private property damage, where he would have maybe some means of recourse against someone who's come onto his property, filled his property, graded his property, all without his permission. It seems like there'd be some legal recourse, but we cannot let it stand as it is, because without an engineer certification, they've raised that lot multiple feet. So now the lot adjacent to them no longer allows the water to come all the way across and reach to where the dry well should have been. So that's one of the primary issues, is we've really altered the way that water is stored and the way that water flows through that area. So if we can't get an engineer to certify that what's been done is okay, then it needs to be removed. But we're more than happy to work with Mr. Luna to find out who's done this to him and bring that case back to you all.
Mr. Chair, could we explore maybe taking 30 days to work this out and find out what's happened and why and who's responsible?
Jack, are you putting that in a motion?
That was a question. I can put it in as a motion. Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, then I'll make a motion that we table this for 30 days, and we'll ask the staff to research this with Atmos and find out if they indeed are the ones that put the fill there and graded the property, and then report back to us. I guess it would be in November.
November 24th.
I second that motion.
Thomas, Eggleton, Lear,
Yes.
Simpson,
You're hard to hear. Yes, to me.
Dearbone,
Yes.
Eggleton, Thomas.
Yes.
Let's Tabitha, let's let our interpreter share with Mr. Luna what just occurred.
Sure. Señor Luna, la Junta ha decidido a posponer la decisión de la citación y dar 30 días para que los empleados de la ciudad investiguen exactamente cuál fue la compañía que puso la tierra y niveló el terreno para ver cómo pueden solucionar este problema para usted. Y lo van a posponer hasta noviembre, la próxima junta, que es el 24 de noviembre.
Sí, lo que sí me compromete yo, que se me pone la banderita al principio para escarbar, para a ver si sale la alcantarilla.
Que está preguntando que si le van a poner la banderita.
Sí.
So are you still going to place a little flag so that I can dig up the dirt on the property?
They're going to come get me.
Here's what I would suggest is that he go back. He's got to obtain a permit. Mr. Lahan, is that correct? I mean, he's been delinquent in the things that he needs to do up front. And this needs to be addressed immediately. Those things. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The permit and the erosion prevention measures are musts in this case. I will definitely go out there this afternoon and place a flag where our GIS data indicates the well is.
Okay. Would you share with that man?
Señor Luna, lo que le están diciendo es que se espere un momento, ¿ok? Que ellos van a llegar y poner una banderita donde estaba el drenaje, pero no quieren, necesitan que usted también venga a pedir un permiso para lo que necesitaba hacer porque todavía no puede continuar con nada sin un permiso activo. Necesitan que vengan a sacar el permiso primero que todo. Y segundo, ellos van a investigar quién fue el que puso la tierra ahí para solucionar el problema. Así que la decisión todavía no está hecha. La van a posponer para el próximo mes.
Entonces, nomás le voy a tapar así alrededor, para que ya no se va a meter nadie, ¿no? Oiga.
¿Qué pasó?
Le voy a poner algo a todo alrededor del terreno, para que no se meta nadie. A echar escombro o algo.
Okay, I'm going to put some type of fencing then so that no one else can enter the property without my permission as well.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to mention on his grounds for the appeal, he said that he had owned the lot for less than a year. Said, I was not aware that notices had been sent out to the previous owner. I was not aware that my property had a drainage as it was already covered by previous owner. So since we've already voted to postpone this till next month, would like to know when did he purchase the property? Because it appeared that this gas company has placed this the debris and filler fairly recently, but his statement implies that it was already covered when he purchased it.
Señor Luna, que quieren saber que cuando usted compró la propiedad.
No tiene mucho, hace, ¿qué serán? Como unos ¿cuánto hace que te lo compré ahorita?
A finales de junio de este año.
Medio año, o un poquito más de medio año.
So purchased the property around the end of July, so a little less than half a year.
Any further comments? Okay, thank you all very much.
Mr. Chair, this is Jack again. I think our translator did a wonderful job, and she ought to be congratulated.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to case 3. This is citation 2020-8489.3, 2603 Mohawk Drive. Owner Benjamin Bush, Officer Brad Charterowski. Brad?
I'm here as the property owner, I call it. He joined since we checked earlier.
Is that property owner here? Can't tell. Mr. Furbush.
Mr. Furbush here.
No. See or hear anyone.
Mr. Furbush. What do we have going on, Tabitha? Is that someone trying to speak or what? I hear some crazy noise in the background. Of course, when you're deaf, you hear everything, you know?
I don't hear anything.
Okay. That's
But-
probably my implant then.
Brad, do you hear anything?
All right, let's, if Mr. Furbush isn't here, then basically the citation stands. So let's move on to case 4. Case 4, case 2020-44, citation 2020-357, 1054 Old Barren River Road. Owner, ME Holdings, LLC. Respondent, Malcolm Cherry. Officer, Nick Lawhon. Let's, can somebody bring us up to date kind of where we were from last month? Mr. Lawhon?
Yes, sir. In the past month, we haven't seen any change physically at the site. The culvert on the road is still accumulating sediment. There are erosion prevention, sediment control measures, and there has not been no construction towards making drainage work again at the site, but the permit application has been approved as of yesterday afternoon. We had a meeting on site last Friday. It was inconclusive at the time, but we were informed yesterday that the engineer plan presented at that meeting would be submitted for permit approval, and the permit was approved yesterday. So right now, the site is still in the same condition as previous. No erosion prevention, sediment control. There's a lot of sediment going off into the drainage ditch and under the culvert. But a permit has finally been approved as of yesterday afternoon. And that is the.
Okay, go ahead.
That is the summary of what's happened since the previous meeting. I do have some pictures of the site, I believe on slides 5 through 7 or 5 through 8 of its current state. This one shows the ditch and the culvert as it stands currently with large amounts of sediment, stagnant water. I had this slide in there yesterday morning, and I found out this morning the permit had been approved. So there could be a final bullet point on there stating that the permit has been approved as of October 26th.
Okay, any questions? All right. Let's see, Mr. Cherry, I need to swear you in, sir.
Okay. I also have Mr. Wilbanks here. We're co-owners of the property.
Okay, let's, I'll swear you both in.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. We did have a site inspection last week, I think it was, and everything, and the revised engineered drawing was submitted at that time, and the board, or the engineers, excuse me, the city engineers had proposed about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 changes, and those changes then were submitted by the engineers, ACES Engineering, and now they're basically requiring us to put a 30-inch pipeline in across our property to handle the runoff from BGMU and from PJ Murphy, the adjoining property owners. We're having a tough time trying to eat that. You know, the code says that you will handle your drainage problems for 100-year flood, but we're handling the water off of 2 other properties, and yeah, it's mostly coming off of the back property, PJ Murphy. Some coming off of BGMU's new meter site building adjacent to us. And that one drainage ditch, that one drainage pipe is going to be in the thousands of dollars to put in. And I spoke to Mr. Meredith about that and asked him if we could not do something different or even go back to the original plan where we didn't have to handle their water. It come down the side of our property. And he told me that I would have to dig a ditch back down the center of our property to address that concern. But we have made the property, we have improved the property about 200%, and we have put a ditch that was partially already existing down the side of our property that feeds down to the Barren River Road and then does a 90-degree turn to the east and goes into that same culvert. This originally started out that we needed to clean the drain and put a silt fence in. Well, with the weather that broke in February and the COVID-19 that broke the rest of the year and everything, we haven't done anything else to that property. And what we're really having a hard time with is just, handling the other property owners' water at our expense and you know, having to take care of their water. So that's our concern. And the permit has all been in place, like you said, as of yesterday and all that. But we're asking for some leniency on this 30-inch pipe that we got to put in for 143 feet. And also our holding pond, by survey, is 15 feet deeper than our property grade and several feet deeper than the Barren River Road, which does not make too much sense to me why we would accumulate any water from our property and hold it in that position basically forever. And that's basically what has happened over the years. That property was a swamp, and when we cleaned it all out and filled it and leveled it out and everything and brought the ditch line down the west side of the property, we actually improved the entire thing. Now, we've been there for 6 years, and we started work on it the very first year we owned it. And it's really cleaned up a swamp and got it looking nice and everything. We've added a fence, a privacy fence, and we actually have grass growing on it to a point. And when we quit work on it, though, we never did get to finish up and put in the straw netting and the silk fence and everything like that. We did clean that culvert out completely one time, and I understand that now I may have some silt back in that culvert, and which we can take care of. All we got to do is dig it out and pull it out, and that's not a problem. But We just asked for some kind of a amendment or something to not have to handle two adjacent property owners' water across our land.
I would like to ask Mr. Broderick a question, please.
Yes, sir.
What about, is this a legal matter that needs to be addressed, or is this, again, I'm not an engineer. I got to tell you, I'm about as lost as last year's Easter egg trying to understand and get a grasp of this. I can see and I understand, but is this, I mean, it seems to me there's some finger pointing going on here, and I'm not sure this board can address that. I mean, we can address the fine and all that, but is that the right thing to do? Again,
Mr. Chairman, I remember this coming up before when I saw Mr. Cherry's name. I thought we had dealt with this some time ago and it had been resolved at that time. I guess my question is, when the citation's written, who wrote this citation?
I did, sir.
Okay, and why did you write it?
The initial citation was written because we had sent a warning letter in November of 2019 when I drove by and noted that there was a large area of fill with no erosion prevention measures. Found out when I got back to the office there was no permit on file. I wrote a warning letter, sent that out, and received no response. That warning letter requested all the same items as the citation, and it was approximately 60 days before we issued the citation. I believe we had some contact with a contractor from Mr. Cherry in between them, but it was 60 days before we even received a permit application and after the citation had been issued.
Well, Brad, am I mistaken? Has this been before the board before?
Yes, sir.
When it was before the board before, am I mistaken? So this is the first time, or it has been?
No, it's been before the board. I believe back maybe January, so maybe was the first time.
Okay.
It's been tabled.
It was before the board in February.
February. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that time, I mean, I keep hearing Bowling Green Municipal Utilities did something, but it seems to me, if that were the case, there would have been some actions already taken at this point. Is the complaint Bowling Green Municipal Utilities did this, or is this, the problem with the way the landowners are using the property?
If it's all right with the board, Chad, Doty, and I can offer some clarification.
Please.
Okay, this property was low relative to those other two properties, so downhill the entire time. There was a large ditch running right through the middle of this property, of the subject property that we're talking about. That ditch was slowly filled in, and as Mr. Cherry has discussed, moved over. And then a couple of 90-degree turns were added to it. So they leveled the part that used to be a pretty large drainage ditch. So these other two properties have always drained through this point. So the points of non-compliance initially were just in the last case we had a few minutes ago on Beauty Street, a bunch of fill has been added. There was no permit application, so we could not determine what impact that fill was going to have on adjoining property owners and the drainage. That fill was not being controlled with regard to sediment runoff. That sediment runoff clogged the drainage structure. So those are the three components. The 30-inch pipe that Mr. Cherry's talking about comes from when the permit was actually applied for and the engineers determined what the impact was going to be to the drainage. That's what the engineers determined needed to be added in order to provide that same level of drainage connectivity that was there before. And if you've got more technical questions, Chad is the reviewing engineer and he can answer those.
No, I think, Mr. Chairman, that answers what I was trying to say. I thought maybe there was some dispute with Bowling Green Municipal Utilities, the way this was done. What I'd remembered is there had been some fill done. So I think, at this point, the citation is appropriate to have been issued. I appreciate the problem that it's going to be expensive to put a tile in or a drainage pipe, as the term might be. But it sounds to me that was the landowner's choice when they were filling this property in.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yep. Yes, sir.
This is Ed Wilbanks. I have a question for Matt and Nick. Would it be possible for the four of us to get on site and figure this out?
I think we kind of have, Ed. I mean, we and Mr. Wilbanks and I have worked together on several properties and gotten them straightened out without having to come to codes. The issue is, just like we've had in the past, that we need an engineer certification when we move this much water. And right now, what the engineer that's working for you all has proposed is this line, and we're agreed to that. The engineer says, hey, this will work. It meets our standard. It's above board. There are certainly alternatives to that. You could maybe go back to an open channel that would use more room, but it wouldn't be the four of us. We would still need an engineer there to say, this is what we propose to do with this property. So yes, more than happy to continue to work with you all, but we do need that engineer certification. We can't just spitball it.
I understand that. I just want to be up to speed with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to meet with you anytime.
Okay. So could we table this to the next month and we meet?
Let me ask this question. When we tabled this last month, Tabitha, can you go back through the minutes and see what did we table last month to address this month?
The reason that you all asked to table this specific case to this month was because you wanted to get Chad Doty into the meeting to ask him some specific questions, because Mr. Cherry kept mentioning Chad Doty in the last meeting and how he was having trouble getting in touch with him, and he had some specific questions that he wanted to ask, and you all had some specific questions that you wanted to ask. So that's why we have Chad with us today. You all need to keep in mind the reason that this is in front of you is to make a decision on this citation that's in front of you and the fee that's in front of you, not a continuation of whether they need a permit or not. So that's what needs to be decided on today. I don't know that it needs to be tabled any longer. I think it would be appropriate to make a decision today.
To address it today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
they can deal with their things, like they've said, outside of this.
Well, my concern is we're 288 days into this.
Exactly. It's about this citation. It's not about their outside permits and the work that needs to be done. It's about this specific citation. And I think we need to move forward from that at this point.
Okay. All right. What about any questions or suggestions from any of our board or a motion?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm not worried about a day just in the books and all that type. I just want to make sure it's done right. If it takes 500 days. But last time we met, I did ask the question about the legality of responsibility of a neighbor's property, neighbor's water coming onto your property. And I don't know if I ever got an answer, and I don't know if it's a legal position or not. But I've always wondered whose problem is it?
I can address that.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, this is Matt again. Our standard, and it's got a lot more words to it, but in a very succinct manner, the standard says that if you own a piece of property and the adjoining properties drain toward you, you must continue to allow them to drain toward you. You cannot cut off their access. Further, our standard says that if you own a piece of property that drains off onto someone else, you cannot do anything that causes them to suddenly start receiving more runoff from you without addressing that through pipe work or that sort of thing. And with regard to the BGMU property, the crew quarters, I do know that came through the permit process and they did submit a drainage plan. And Mr. Cherry is more than welcome to have access to that drainage plan if he'd like. I think his engineer that he has now may have been the engineer that prepared it.
Okay.
Say something. This is Malcolm Cherry. Are we there? Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Malcolm Cherry. He just stated that any water that drained off a person's property would be, if it's before, well, we did fill the ditch in. We moved it over. The water is still the same amount of water going down the new ditch that I was always draining across. Now with his wording on the code or the law or whatever, you know, since we bought this property 6 years ago and we started filling and making it a usable piece of land, there has not been one time in the hardest rains we've had, which we've had some of those 100-year rains, that the water went over the road. It always handled it. Before we bought it, and we know the property for many years, every time it rained, it filled up our entire swamp area and overflowed the Barren River Road, and the city of Bowling Green would come down and put the yellow cones out to keep people from going through there. And that was before we bought the property. So, as I said, what we've done is improved. The drainage ditch is moved over to the side, and it's nothing but an improvement. And we just didn't get finished sloping the sides and that kind of thing because of weather and because of the COVID virus. And we were well on our way of finishing it off, and the water never overflowed the road. And if you don't believe me, you can check city records and see the last time they put out cones because the water overflowed the Barren River Road. What we did actually slowed the water flow.
Any other suggestions or comments?
I'm gonna make one comment about the drainage ditch and everything as far as being moved and, you know, not changed, or the pipe or no pipe. You know, one of the original issues, kind of in my timeline when we first gave comment, it showed, you know, there was a centered line, you know, a ditch center of the property that went directly to the culvert that goes underneath Old Barren River Road. So it had direct access to the channel, you know, the culvert to go on the other side of Old Barren River Road. The way the ditch has been changed now, it's been moved to the side. So it has to make two 90-degree turns before it can get to the culvert that now takes that drainage. So some of this, the reason why we've gone through revised drainage plans and everything else, is get the site to work as close to the original as possible to handle that drainage that was been coming to it through the drainage ditch. That doesn't have a negative impact on our roadway. If we left it be, all that water that's been going through now would slam up against our road bank, have to turn down, travel, and then turn again to get to that culvert, which it never did before. because it had that ditch center of the property to go directly to the culvert. If you look at one of the latest plans, that's kind of why the 30-inch pipe is being asked. Now that all that water's been moved to one ditch to the side, that 30-inch pipe is being used to help direct it to the culvert, more like the way it was before. Just to kind of give hopefully some helpful background.
Okay, Malcolm Cherry again. Yes, you are correct. That ditch has been moved and it has never overflowed since we moved the ditch. Before, as you mentioned, it was a wet area, swampy area, and it would fill completely up, and then it would overflow the Old Barren River Road by 2 to 3 feet. And it filled up the property across the road. And since we've done this, it's never overflowed the Barren River Road again, even with the 90-degree turns.
Okay.
And they are not washing. Those turns are not washing out.
Okay.
I would say yes.
I think that we're getting into some redundant discussion now. And we need to, we probably need to come up with a decision one way or the other. And I would, obviously, I'm kind of like Delane. I want to see this thing fixed. And what I hear is, Mr. Cherry say, well, we've got some other owners that have some issues that they need to address. Well, we may be in a, we may be in a he said, she said kind of situation right here, but we've still got a citation in front of us that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
So I'm sharing that to the board.
One more comment before you stop, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Is it still not possible for myself and Malcolm to meet over there and figure out what to do and get this resolved?
Well, that can be done, there is a permit for the property now that we approved today. That would be a change to the permit. But yes, we can meet about that. Of course, what is discussed, you'll need to have your engineer on site, and a new revised plan will need to be submitted and approved before work moves further to implement that new design. So currently we have the latest design that was submitted was approved, and that's how the permit was approved with that plan to be installed. If a new design, if you want to submit a new design, that'll have to be reviewed and approved again. We can do that underneath the permit.
Well, I just wanted to get it resolved and get all parties that's involved there at the same time. See if we can't resolve it.
Well, again, it seems to me that has been presented with putting this culvert in. And as I heard Mr. Cherry say, that's a very, very expensive ordeal that you guys really don't want to do. Am I wrong? Did I hear that?
Well, that's going to be, Randy, that'll be there. They can have those discussions outside of this meeting, because we need to discuss the actual citation that's in front of you guys and the fees that are assessed with that. So let's try to focus on that. And they can discuss that outside of this and let them the engineers do their job with working with these.
Well, I understand my situation. I'm trying to come to grasp with the citation, trying to get a good feel of the citation and what decision I want to make regarding it.
Right. Well, whether it was in violation, if they were correct in issuing the citation to begin with, was it actually in violation and the fees assessed with it? That's the bottom line, really.
Okay. All right. Do I hear motion?
David, did you say something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me say this. Delane didn't get an answer because everybody was interacting. The common law has always been that you cannot change the natural flow of water. Now, what you've heard from the engineers is in the modern world, you can adapt in some ways, but it has to be done in compliance with their rules and regulations. But the general law in Kentucky has been for a long, long time. You can't change the natural flow of water. And what I'm hearing in the citation is the flow of water's been changed, and that's what's causing the problem right now. So I think that's the basic issue.
Okay. All right, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to uphold the citation and fine in the amount of $2,000.
Second.
Any
Simpson seconded that?
Ryan seconded.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Deere,
Yes.
Simpson,
No,
Dearbone,
Yes.
Eggleton,
Yes.
Thomas. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I think he's muted.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
see his lips reading, but
Is he muted?
Now try him.
Jack's muted. Okay, no, I got it. Okay. Thank you. I got it all now.
All right. Okay, thank you. Let's get that situation resolved. All right. Thank you all for being here. I see that we have no new business comments or announcements from the board. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, we have this is David Broderick, on November the 19th, we had the hearing before Judge Brown with Dennis Sickris. I have confirmed with Judge Brown as of yesterday that we will have it. The COVID restrictions will apply. I do not anticipate any of the board members having to testify, but I wanted to let you know about, I'll also follow up with it with a letter.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for bringing us up to date on that.
Yeah.
With that, I make a motion to cancel our December meeting.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
We need a motion for that.
We do. Yes.
Okay.
Did you already motion or do I need to?
Okay. Oops. Okay, I got Deere and Simpson. Deere,
Yes.
Simpson,
yes.
Dearbone,
Yes.
Eggleton, Thomas. Okay, thank you. Poor Jack. He's muted somehow. I don't know what happened.
Do we have, what date is our meeting in November? Do you have a date yet?
It will be November 24th.
Okay.
That's when
Right.
it's going to fall on. And looks like as of right now, we'll just have that one thing on our agenda. So we'll see what we can work out with that. If we can get it fixed ahead of time, or if we need to have that one on the agenda, we'll just have that one on there.
Okay.
Is that at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, we'll probably shoot for 1 o'clock again.
Okay.
If that will work for everyone here.
Well, this is not the easiest way to have a meeting, and it's certainly difficult with the decisions that we're having to make. And I certainly respect and I appreciate everybody's what everybody's doing, because everybody has great integrity, and I just want to say thanks. So with that, thank you, Tabitha. Thank you, James. Thanks all of you for doing this.
Thank you all too. Appreciate you.
All right.
So we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Motion made.
Second.
Okay. Dear Eggleton, Dear,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Dearbone,
Yes.
Eggleton,
Yes.
and Thomas. I think he's
There you go.
took
We got,
off. Yeah.
we got a majority vote on that, so we'll move. Thank you all.
Thank you all. I appreciate you.
On that